dive into the top stories of the day, including the Take It Down Act, a measure First Lady Melania Trump helped usher through Congress to set stricter penalties for non-consensual images online. I'm Ernie Manous.
And I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman. We'll also welcome the mayor of Katy, Dusty Thiele, to the show. Thiele took the oath of office last Wednesday for a 3-year term as Katy's mayor.
And I'm Frank Billingsley. Plus, we'll also discuss how Medicaid cuts could impact Texas hospitals.
And as Ernie, Frank, and I discuss the top headlines of the day, we want your thoughts, your questions, and concerns. Give us a call or shoot us a text at 713-440-8870. Or you can also email us at talk@hellohouston.org.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News, I'm Lakshmi Singh. President Trump has emerged from his meeting with House Republicans after more than an hour today, saying his party is united behind his, quote, big, beautiful bill.
I think it was a really great, that was a meeting of love. Let me tell you, that was love in that room. There was no shouting. I think it was a meeting of love. There were a couple of things that we talked about specifically where some people felt a little bit one way or the other, not a big deal.
However, it is still unclear if Trump has persuaded Republican holdouts to support the massive bill of spending and tax cuts. The GOP cannot afford to lose more than 3 Republican votes in the House, where the GOP has a narrow majority. This week, 4 fiscal hardliners helped advance the bill out of committee without supporting it on grounds that the spending cuts don't go far enough. Democrats are united against the measure that they say undermines the most vulnerable Americans. Secretary of State Marco Rubio is defending the Trump administration's outreach to Russia to try to end the war in Ukraine. He's testifying before the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, where he used to serve, and is facing tough questions from Democrats. Here's NPR's Michelle Kellerman.
The ranking Democrat on the Senate Foreign Relations Committee, Jeanne Shaheen, says the Trump administration is giving up its leverage with Russian President Vladimir Putin.
What Vladimir Putin is doing now is playing for time, and he's playing this president like a fiddle.
Rubio rejected that, saying Trump is trying to end a war that no one can win.
Russia wants what they do not currently have and are not entitled to, and Ukraine wants what they cannot regain militarily. And that's been the crux of the challenge.
He also argues that the U.S. hasn't given Putin any sanctions relief. Shaheen and other Democrats say Putin should face more pressure to stop Russia's aggression. Michelle Kellerman, NPR News, the State Department.
Over the weekend, tornadoes killed more than 24 people in Kentucky, Indiana, and Missouri. NPR's Rebecca Hirsch reports large outbreaks of tornadoes are getting more common.
The total number of tornadoes has been stable since scientists started tracking them in the 1950s. But big outbreaks where lots of storms move across a large area have gotten more common in recent decades. Melissa Widhelm helps lead the Midwestern Regional Climate Center at Purdue University.
In the past, we didn't see the kind of large outbreak days that we do now. It used to be kind of unusual to see, dozens of them in a day, and now we get that year after year.
It's unclear what role, if any, climate change might play in tornado trends. Scientists are actively working to understand how tornadoes are changing in order to better protect people in harm's way. Rebecca Hirscher, NPR News.
U.S. stocks are trading lower this hour. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is down more than 100 points. You're listening to NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Gabrielle Dawkins. We're following breaking news, a chlorine gas leak taking place at Olin Plant B at around 9 a.m. this morning. The shelter in place was just lifted in the last 20 minutes for people currently in the cities of Clute and Lake Jackson, roughly an hour south of the Houston metro area. Joining us now is News 88.7's Tom Perumian. He spoke with a person who was sheltering nearby. Tom, what did they tell you?
Well, they told me as that leak began, school children at nearby O.M. Roberts Elementary School in Lake Jackson were having a third grade award ceremony in the cafeteria. In attendance with family members, Trinity Higginbotham. She describes what happened.
everyone's phone started going off, and then they made the announcement that there was a shelter-in-place order. Originally, they announced that students couldn't leave, and then a few moments later, they said that the building was actually in shelter-in-place, so that parents couldn't leave either. Well, then at the school, they just let everyone know. We did get different alerts on our phone from the school district. Security at O.M. Roberts started to tape the doors, I think just out of precaution.
Now, as you've heard, Brazoria County's fire marshal reports the leak has been downgraded to level 2. The chlorine release in Olin Plant B has been stopped. The precautionary community shelter in place lifted in all areas. Community roads are back open, according to Brazoria County sheriffs, and have no impact on the community. BASF and Dow roads inside the closed plant are shut down at this time. Gabrielle?
Again, that's Tom Perumian reporting. Initially, the Lake Jackson Police Department confirmed this as a level 3 chlorine release. But as of the last hour, the Brazoria County Sheriff's Office Fire Marshal downgraded it to a level 2. The gas leak has been contained, no injuries reported, and there's no word yet on the cause of the leak. Be sure to stay updated on HoustonPublicMedia.org for the latest. I'm Gabrielle Dawkins, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Progressive, with small business insurance for protecting a variety of business types with multiple coverage options, designed to fit business owners' needs. More about small business insurance is at progressivecommercial.com.
Live from the University of Houston, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Well, hello, Houston. A lot to cover on today's show, but being that we always start our show with the headlines of the day, we have a story very close to home that's going on right now. It's a chemical leak down in Lake Jackson. And Celeste, you have the latest on that for us. Jumping right in.
Thanks, Ernie. Developing news coming out of the cities of Clute and Lake Jackson, which is an hour south of the Houston metro area. As we just heard earlier on the newscast, a shelter-in-place order has now been lifted. Joining us now is Morning Edition news anchor Matt Harab. Matt, welcome to Hello Houston. Obviously, we just heard, Tom Perumian talking about it, but what can you tell us? What other details do we know about what happened this morning?
Well, we know this started around 9 o'clock. That's when sirens started blaring down there. This whole incident lasted about an hour and 40 minutes. So as we just heard in our newscast, the shelter in place for Clute and Lake Jackson has been lifted. Originally, this situation was a level 3, which means that there was a leak. A chlorine gas is the gas that was leaking, had gone outside of the facility. As you just heard, that has been downgraded to a level 2. The initial call came in at 9:01 at the Olin plant. Emergency response was activated on the site. Shortly after, there was a shelter in place that was ordered, not only for the two cities, but also Brazosport ISD. 9:30 this morning, Olin confirmed that officials had issued that shelter in place for the cities as a precaution. Shortly after that, 15 minutes later, they reported that the chlorine leak had been stopped and reiterated that no other communities were impacted. And then they were working on the problem. And here we are about an hour later, 10:40, which is about a half an hour ago. The Brazoria County Sheriff's Office announced that the shelter-in-place orders had been lifted following confirmation that conditions were safe.
Now, Matt, you did mention Olin facility. Is that? I also saw that there were reports it was a Dow chemical facility.
Yes. So those two companies, I believe they were part of the same thing. They merged at one point. So I'm pretty sure they're one and the same.
A little side note, though, with Frank, asking you about how the wind is down there. Is there dissipation? Is it pretty still out there? Does that play a part?
Fairly still. It's southwest about 5 to 10 miles an hour. So the gusts from earlier this morning, overnight, those all calmed down. But anyone clearly that would be north or northeast of where that location is, that the leak occurred, would want to take extra precaution because any wind can drive it that way. But the winds are not a big factor like they could have been had this happened 8 hours earlier.
Yeah.
Wow.
Matt, any recommendations coming out from the area about what people should do going forward right now?
Just looking out for some of the symptoms that could possibly be with this leak. So mild irritation, eye, nose, throat irritation is just something to look out for. Chest pain, difficulty breathing. But again, the situation is contained at this point.
Now, we were talking about this a little bit before, Frank, Matt, and myself. We're talking about, is it chlorine, Matt? Just like a pool chlorine type?
It's chlorine gas.
It's gas,
yes,
okay.
and that can be a little bit more of a stronger, it's more severe situation. You have respiratory problems that come with that, bronchitis, asthma, that kind of things. Those things can flare up. So it's an issue.
Yeah, and based on the pictures, I mean, it was a big green gust. I mean, it looks scary.
Is there a number people should call if they are? Have we seen anything as the county, as the city giving any recommendation for people?
I haven't seen any just yet.
So then if you are feeling yourself affected by this, reach out to your local healthcare providers and stuff. And
Probably
keep,
a good move. Yeah.
Keep on top of that. We'll continue here at the station keeping folks updated as information comes out and more we know about it. But anything else you want to share with the audience right now?
No, just I think emergency responders did their job this morning and they got this contained within an hour and 40 minutes. Again, 9 o'clock this morning, this was a pretty level 3 situation, and now it's been downgraded to a level 2.
Yeah. Morning Edition news anchor Matt Harrod, thanks for joining us on Hello Houston.
You got it.
We also have a firsthand account of what went on and someone who was in the situation. Trinity, are you on the line?
I am. I'm here.
Trinity, walk us through where you were and what you saw and what happened there.
So I was actually here in Lake Jackson for an award ceremony for my daughter at O.M. Roberts Elementary, and it started at 9 a.m., and then almost immediately we started hearing the sirens going off outside the building, and then alerts started coming through on everyone's phone from Brazosport Independent School District. We were getting alerts from Lake Jackson. And at that point,
what did the alert say? What did you see coming across your phone?
So we had a few different ones, but basically that there was a level 3 chemical leak and that there was a shelter-in-place issued out of an abundance of caution was what we were initially told. So, yeah.
And so you're in this, I want to say public space, but a school space. What did they do to react to these messages?
So they immediately told everyone that was there for the award ceremony, let us know, and then they said that we would just have to shelter in place until they got more information. And then as the school received information, they did a really great job of relaying it to the parents as we were just kind of waiting in the cafeteria, and everyone was checking their phones, and they did a great job of letting us know information as soon as they got the information.
When it started to seem as though it was being lifted, how were you informed about that? What went through your mind?
So we first started, basically everyone was on their phones looking for updates. And so we saw that the Olin first had issued a all clear at their plant. And then we saw that the city of Lake Jackson had issued the all clear. And we were just waiting for the district to issue the all clear at that point. And so, they were told us that, the all clear had been issued and that we were free to leave. And then if any of us had planned to take our children early because of the awards, that we could still take them with us at that time.
I do have to ask, you're a mother, you're here, all of a sudden you get these alerts. What goes through your mind in that moment?
Well, I'm not from Lake Jackson, so this was a whole new,
Not someone who's used to this.
Yeah. Yes, I knew that we were near the plant, but I didn't know that this was a thing that could happen. So it was definitely surprising. I will say everyone else seemed a lot more calm about it. Not that I was not calm, but it didn't seem like anyone had a lot of worry in the cafeteria. It seemed like something, I guess, because so many people here work for the plant. It wasn't as shocking to other people as maybe it would have been to me, someone that's not from the area.
Anyone show any sign of any of the symptoms we've been talking about?
Not that I've seen. I think the school did a really great job of keeping everyone in the building. Even some of the workers that they had inside, they invited to come inside just to make sure. And then we didn't leave until that shelter in order had been lifted. I just now was able to pull into my house. So I'm in my driveway now.
Yeah. Any idea of, we saw some pictures online of this big green cloud and stuff. Do you see any signs of any of this, or is everything back to a regular Texas day?
Yeah, I don't see anything here. I don't even see the breeze that we had earlier, luckily. It looks just, clouds and blue sky and no wind at all. So hopefully that means, it was completely contained and that we shouldn't have to worry, any of the local people here.
Trinity Higginbottom is an HPM employee and has a child in the Brazosport ISD campuses. Trinity, thank you for joining us today, and stay safe.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Well, that's where we start the show
that,
today.
I know.
There's
breaking news for sure.
Well, it's interesting when you live in a community that has so many chemical plants, so much industry like we have. These things do happen.
Well, and I always think the worst because it seems like when they make news like this, they are pretty bad. Like big fires, people are in danger, shelter in place. So I'm really thankful that this one turned out to be a nuisance more than anything else.
Yeah, definitely. And we've been, we've had multiple segments all about air quality right here on Hello Houston. You can check those out on our YouTube channel. But it's very interesting. Now I think we might have to have another one about what happens.
Well, and I thought of the sheriff's department because Sheriff Garcia was saying, we have to help everybody when things like chemical explosions happen. So I don't know who all was down there, but it wouldn't surprise me if we had to send some of our Houston force to help.
And it's always interesting to see, right? Like you were just mentioning, the agencies that activate people, deputies that you don't think would even be covering that kind of situation are going down there.
Falls under their category for sure.
Well, and the nice thing about it is we got to see how quickly the response works, that these notices go out, that people knew what to do. From what Trinity was just telling us, it was calm there. People followed what they were supposed to do. It's moments like that you realize how important community is. And we often get caught up in these conversations about individual rights and individual doing their own thing. But there is the joy and strength of coming together as a community and knowing what to do in times of need.
Yep.
And so, yes, thank God this seems to have turned out to be relatively okay down there. There was still the leak. The notices went out. People sheltered in place. When the air quality hit the point where they can go back out, they were alerted to it. The other nice hand of it is we know right here at News 88.7 we'll be covering these things as they happen. And as you listen, you can always know that you're being kept informed of what's going on in our area and our community. So there. That's what I have to say.
And if you want to know more about this specific story, you can head to HoustonPublicMedia.org. Our newsroom will continue to monitor it, and we will continue to follow this developing story.
And we'll be talking a little bit on today's show. We're going to have the mayor of Katy here with us, which will help us also look at how communities respond to situations like this, see what experiences he's had in that similar way. I also want to just mention, we're right here on YouTube. You can watch us there and see what's going on. You could have seen Matt Harrop if you were watching on YouTube when Matt was here in the studio a moment ago talking with us. And we always say, but we start with the news of the day. We already started with the news of the day, but on to some other stories. Celeste, start us off there.
Coming out of D.C., President Donald Trump on Monday signed into law the Take It Down Act. This is a measure that imposes penalties for online sexual exploitation that First Lady Melania Trump helped usher through Congress, and he had her sign it too. And it is important to note Melania Trump's signature is merely symbolic, since First Ladies are not elected and play no role in the enactment of legislation. However, the bill makes it a federal crime to knowingly publish or threaten to publish intimate images without a person's consent, including AI-created deep fakes. Websites and social media companies will be required to remove such material within 48 hours after a victim requests it. The platforms must also take steps to delete duplicate content. Many states have already banned the dissemination of sexually explicit deepfakes, or also known as revenge porn. But the Take It Down Act is a rare example of federal regulators imposing on internet companies. Are you in favor of this federal bill, or should states handle these type situations individually? Give us a call at 713-440-8870.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
In fact, it seems like they could go one step further. Isn't it possible to make it so that you can't take screenshots of certain things?
Oh yeah, there are.
I don't think it's possible. I mean, you can take a screenshot, and
the
how would
point
anybody
is,
know?
if it's on your screen, you can take another camera and photograph it. That
true.
way. So
and
you
you
can
have
always
48
capture
hours
it.
to do it. So
No, but a screenshot.
Some apps block.
Some apps block it,
Right.
and
So
some
the
you'll get a
technology is out
notification.
there that you can. If I go into my banking account, my Chase bank account on my app, and I open up something, and I want to take a snapshot of my balances and stuff, it'll just be black when the picture comes out. So the technology is there.
Yeah.
And so I assume on
but
these
you can
kind of
take a
stories.
photo
Right,
with
but if I
another
took another
computer,
camera, took a picture of it, or another phone, I could take
You
a
could take
picture
a
of the
picture.
image.
Yeah, I think they should do that.
I think it's an interesting concept. I think it's a great concept. I think it's hard in practice. I think the definition of what is an intimate image, what are we defining that as? Who's making that decision, that call on it? It always goes back to, I'll recognize obscenity when I see it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but it all comes to a person's consent.
Right.
So whether you think it's intimate or I think it's intimate, if I tell you to take it down and it's of me, you got to take it down.
It is to me.
Yes, but it leads to, I think the problem comes if you're out in public and you are, for example, if you're wearing something that may be more risque than so, and someone else snaps a picture of it, and then how do we track who took what? Where did it happen? How is it regulated? I just think it goes back to my old sayings all the time of these are old world solutions to new world problems.
Yeah. Sorry, I disagree. I think that when we're looking at this bill, it's an absolute no-brainer. We are talking about, unfortunately, and I'm about to talk about some adult content here. Speaking specifically about adult content, more and more the conversation that parents have to have with their kids about sex isn't necessarily just about having it. You don't take pictures of yourself.
Right.
Because teenagers now do it and they'll send it to their boyfriend. It is happening whether parents want to acknowledge it or not. And what happens is not just are pictures being taken, but now with AI, you can put somebody's face on with a naked image.
Right.
And your child might not have even, or adult might not have even done that.
Right.
But it looks just like them. And so this is basically saying the federal government will come after you if you do that.
Right.
And I think it's an absolute no-brainer. You cannot, it is causing major mental health issues for
But I don't know where we're disagreeing on that.
But to Ernie's point, how do you define pornography?
Yeah, at
what
level
point
is it?
does a Speedo and a spaghetti strap cross the
That's
line?
not what they're talking about.
I know
they're
that's not,
talking
but-
about
but 'cause-
revenge. But it is talking about I'm in a relationship with my boyfriend, and at one point we were totally in love, and I sent him some photos, or somebody gets an image of my face and puts it on the internet. It's basically you can't do that. It is we're going to come
What
after
happens,
you.
though, if you have consented initially and then the relationship turns, you change your mind, those images are already out there.
That's
now you
right.
say, I think that's, let's take some calls on this. 713, I already forgot our numbers. Thank you.
440-8870.
All right, Alton's on the line. Alton, what's on your mind?
Hey, I just wanted to first of all say I love your show, and Frank's my guy. And
Thank you.
He's our guy, too.
All right, there you go. Number two, I totally, I'm not a Trump fan. I voted for Kamala Harris, but I do appreciate him doing that, taking care of the porn. My stepdaughter was sex trafficked when she was 14.
Wow.
She's
I'm
22
sorry.
now,
I'm
and-
sorry.
Yeah, and I'm glad anything that'll make sex trafficking further away and more illegal, make it disappear. And, it took the federal government to take care of civil rights and the right to vote. And so I'm perfectly happy with federal or state or city or anybody else that'll take care of sex trafficking as well as, this AI and this false information. And I'd say let's get back to truth. Thank you, and you have a blessed day. Okay?
Thanks, Alton.
Thank you,
And
Alton.
to his point and yours, it has to be done, but it is going to be complicated to enforce.
Right. My thing is more about how do you enforce it, more so than saying it should. I'm absolutely in favor of it. I
So
think that
the
it
way
should
you-
be blocked when it's going against someone's beliefs or wants or desires. So if it wasn't you who posted, they should have no right to post pictures of you that you
I
don't
have
want.
been personally attacked on the internet when I lived in Australia and I was a news reporter. And it is absolutely one of the most horrendous feelings in the world. And it is one of those things where I remember telling Dan, and it was from a man who, was harassing me, and he saw me on the Australian news, and he didn't like that I was American. And long story short, I remember telling Dan, I said, I am very lucky that I'm experiencing this in my 30s, and I have a very good support group, because if I was a teenage girl, I'm not sure how I would have handled that situation. And the thing is that taking a snap of somebody in a bikini is one thing, right? We can all agree. Yeah. And the point isn't necessarily, and I understand what you're saying, how do you enforce this? What it is, it becomes a deterrence from maybe somebody doing that to saying, you will get penalized. We will come after you. It's sending a message to be a deterrence to people that think that they can harass, especially women. So,
But I also
on my
think the
soapbox.
48 hours part blows my mind too. I mean, maybe the companies need that
Well,
time.
I had to-
but in 48 hours, what can
I
spread
went through
and
it.
go?
It's horrible. I had to go on YouTube and I had to put in a form, and it tells you, we have to review da-da-da-da-da-da-da, and then it would go, and you wait there, and it's horrible. And then it would come back again, and there would be all different kinds of places and things. And so I am absolutely, we need to protect women, and we need to protect everybody. Right. Because it
But that
happens
goes
to
back
young
to what I
boys
was
too.
saying a minute
It
ago.
happens to young boys
It's
too.
Old world solutions to new world problems, having to wait, like you said, submit the form and wait from the process. By that point, it's over. It goes so fast today. We need to find better ways to handle this.
And we did receive a text that says the point is if the victim or the subject requests it to be taken down, it should be taken down. It doesn't matter if it's considered pornographic or obscene. If the subject requested to be taken down, I think that should be honored. It's about consent.
Agreed.
Agreed.
Yeah.
Yep.
You've got this jury, this Supreme Court here of three of us have all voted in favor.
Here,
of it.
here.
All right.
Yeah.
Well,
We're
Moving
done.
on. Yes,
move
you can
on.
give us a call
Take-
if you have more comments about this. 713-440-8870.
And that brings us to the end of this segment.
Does it? Yes,
Yes.
it does.
Let's
Okay,
take
I
us
apologize. I was like waiting for the next one because the next topic was good. But coming
We'll get
up
to it.
on Hello Houston, we'll talk with Katy Mayor Dusty Thiele. And we continue to take your calls on today's topics at 713-440-8870. This is Hello Houston on News 88.7.
It can be hard to stay informed about what's happening in our city, our state, and across the country. That's why Houston Public Media makes it easier.
Everything you hear on News 88.7 is powered by you, not advertisers. 80% of our funding comes from our Houston community.
That's what makes public media different. It's community funded and always here for you when you need it.
Join that community now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
There is just this broad reckoning in the party about what happened with Joe Biden, about what Donald Trump is doing as the president from the White House, and what kind of message and messenger is best to lead Democrats out of this wilderness that they're in.
I'm Michael Barbaro. That's Today on the Daily from the New York Times.
You can hear The Daily coming up tonight at 7 o'clock.
Houston Public Media brings to you PBS World, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on TV 8.6. Experience the personal connection behind the headlines with programming devoted to telling stories that humanize complex issues. PBS World helps us understand the movements, conflicts, and cultures that connect us all. PBS World on TV 8.6 and online at houstonpublicmedia.org.
Support comes from the Houston Symphony, performing Schumann's Second Symphony under music director Yuri Valchua. Plus, pianist Bruce Liu performs Chopin's First Piano Concerto, May 23rd through 25th at Jones Hall. Tickets at houstonsymphony.org.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Baylor College of Medicine. At the heart of the Texas Medical Center, Baylor physicians and scientists continue to shape healthcare for Houston and beyond through education, research, and innovation.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Hello Houston is designed to serve as a platform for elected officials to share their agenda and policies, but it's also a platform for you, our listeners, to share your thoughts, questions, and concerns with the elected officials we host on this program. We've had both the mayor of Houston and the mayor of Sugar Land on Hello Houston, so we thought it's time to invite the mayor of Katy on the show. Earlier this month, Mayor William Dusty Thiele reclaimed the position of mayor of the city of Katy. Along with many years of serving the city of Katy, has owned and operated Thiele Insurance Agency for 35 years, and with the last 20 of those years being in the city of Katy. Mayor Thiele, welcome to Hello Houston.
Well, thank you for having me. This is quite an honor for me. Thank you.
Oh,
Yes.
It's nice to have you here.
That's right. And we want to invite you to the conversation. If you have any questions for the mayor of Katy, now is the time to give us a call at 713-440-8870. So, Mayor Thiele, after your win in this latest election, you said you're fully, obviously committed to serving to the city of Katy, but you listed multiple things. And one of the things that stuck out to me most was public safety. And something that we know about that area, it is growing, and it is growing at a very rapid rate. How are you managing public safety with a large influx of people moving to your area?
Well, one thing we got to discern is that the city of Katy is not all of Katy unincorporated. So the whole area is growing. But what we, in the city of Katy, we have about 25,000 citizens in the city of Katy. With that, we have a very large police force. We have a police force of 95 employees in the Katy Police Department, and about the same, a little fewer than that, at the Katy Fire Department. So we're very well staffed. We make sure that we give the best training, the best equipment that we can give our first responders. Because yes, people in the city of Katy, they move into the city limits because they want to know when there's an emergency or when they have a need, they can make a phone call, and we're going to be there in about 2 minutes on average to respond to the citizens.
Population size?
Population size for the city limits is about 25,000 people.
Okay.
Now, for the whole Katy area, Katy ISD area, it's about 370,000 people.
Wow.
So
Mayor Thiele, those people seem to be spread out. You get, I think there's 9 exits down.
Yes, that's exactly what I'm thinking.
Katy.
Exactly.
So you're sort of negotiating Harris County, Fort Bend County, and Waller County,
Right.
And you're right there at the middle of all. How do you do that?
Yeah, well, actually, just little facts. We're the hubs. We call ourselves a hub city. Actually, all 3 counties come together in one spot in a park that we have across the street from the City Hall called Thomas Park, and there's a rock there. And you can go put your finger in this little hole in that rock, and you'll be in all 3 counties at the same time.
Somebody had to live there, right?
Yeah, that's right. But no, we do, and we have very good relations with all 3 counties. We have great relationships with our county commissioners. Harris County's Commissioner Briones, Fort Bend County Commissioner Morales, and Waller County is Commissioner Beckendorf, and we're in constant contact with them on everything. It's great relationship.
What's the biggest challenge facing Katy? Katy seems like just a really easy community.
Mm-hmm. Well, it is, but there are challenges, and this is the one thing, and I think you would have read there. People. Mobility is quite a problem because there are a lot of people there, and people are coming in and out of the city all the time. There was a Saturday which we had our police department check, and we had like 250,000 automobiles come through the city limits of Katy on a Saturday. So there's a lot of mobility issues, and as a result of that, we are expanding roads, improving roads, so people can get through in and out of the city of Katy as quickly as possible. So you can get to work on time, you can get your kids to school on time, or just going out to eat or whatever. We want to make sure that the mobility is there. The other thing is our drainage. Once again, as a weatherman,
I was going to bring that up.
You know that.
I do want to ask you, though, about mobility. And
Yes.
when you're talking about roads, I have to ask because my in-laws live in Katy. My husband grew up there. He went to Katy Taylor. And my mother-in-law specifically asked me, she always said, does the city of Katy have any control over putting bike lanes on all the new roads built in Katy? Now, Frank? Bike roads, bike lanes.
I'm all for bike lanes if you can afford them.
Yeah, yes. At this time we're not doing that, but we do have something we're working on with a grant from TxDOT to come in and do a bike trail. And we also, within the city limits of Katy, we just approved a trail system. And it's about a 3.5 mile trail system coming from north off. I don't know, these roads may not mean anything to you, but they're coming north off Morton Road all the way down to our 10th Street and all the way down to City Hall. It's about a 3 mile, and there will be lanes there for bicycles and hikers, of course, there. But on the streets itself, we really haven't been doing that in the city of Katy. Now, there's probably some plans outside in the unincorporated areas for that I'm unaware of, but within the city limits.
So you mentioned drainage.
Drainage.
Yes.
I remember, it seems like Old Town has
Yeah.
some high water issues,
Yes.
as I recall reporting on that. But you do a pretty good job. How are you doing? Retention ponds?
Yes. So we have, since Hurricane Harvey, and we were already in the design for it even before, we have, it's called Linedecker Landing, and it's a huge retention pond just north of Morton Road, so in the northern part, because where the floodwaters come for Katy, they come from north, Cypress Creek, area. When it overflows its banks, it's coming down towards us. So we do have some retention ponds up there. We also have projects where we've taken out the old drainage system, which the pipes, and I can't give you the inches, but I mean, there were smaller pipes, and we've increased it to much larger pipes. And then any of our new roads that we build, we're including better drainage within those roads.
Yeah, a lot of people don't realize getting the water from the roads down the pipes to the bayous, therein lies the problem.
Yes,
and if you can't get all that water through the pipe, you're putting 10 pounds of potatoes in a 5-pound bag, it's going to come up into the streets and then into your homes if it's
exactly,
enough. Yeah.
Exactly. And that's what happened during Hurricane Harvey.
For
and
everyone.
And Tax Day flood, too. That's one of the other ones that affected us. And so drainage is very important to me and to city council and to administration because in the house that I lived in, it did flood both times in a Tax Day flood and Hurricane Harvey. So all the neighbors around there, when it starts raining 2 or 3 inches, there's PTSD that sets in because is there going to be enough to prevent that? Because it doesn't take, as an old insurance agent, it takes less than an inch of water into a house and cause thousands and thousands of dollars of damage.
A lot of politicians, I'm going to take a lot of politicians will say they won it was a victory, a landslide, and all that. If I'm not mistaken, you're like 87% of the vote for
Yes.
you. So obviously there was support for you. There were also, though, charter amendments on, and they all failed in that same election. What does it tell you about who the voters were and what they want from Katy moving forward? If you get this and those amendments didn't get that, what's going on there?
Well, I think what it was more than anything is there's a council did want to try to make some changes to ordinance, but they really wanted to put it out for a vote, let the voters decide. And so that is actually what happened is they put it out and the voters decided against those changes. Some of them were minor, but some were a little bit more than that. But I think overall, the people in the city of Katy, I think, have been very happy with the way the city has been run. Not by me, but by administration and just the directions that we have gone with our public safety and our public works unit. So I think they're just happy overall with the way the city operates.
But was city governance then out of touch with the people if all of them failed?
I don't believe they were out of touch with them. I think there were some changes they wanted that the older portions of Katy were divided into wards, and you have some newer neighborhoods and some older neighborhoods. I think they liked the way things have been in the past, and they wanted to keep it that way. We're not ready for those changes.
So then
yet.
what's your roadmap moving forward?
As far as
Well, if all those policies got voted down, they're saying we're not following where your city governance is going, but we've picked this man to lead us.
Right.
What do they want from you?
Well, I think they want me to keep it on the same path that it's been on, and that's where I stood also. So I think that's what they were wanting more than anything, to keep Katy. Because Katy has been very well run. I mean, we have 7 former mayors that are all still close. We have coffee with the mayors where people can come in and speak to them all. And all the former councils, I think they just liked the way the city had been run in the past.
If you have a question for Mayor Thiele out of Katy, give us a call, 713-440-8870. By the way, how does it feel to have truly the best and most expensive high school football stadium in the United States? $70 million. I've been there, and it is gorgeous. And I know it serves a lot of different high schools and different elementary schools, to I guess middle schools even, pretty much anybody over in that area. But that's got to be, you got to be really proud of that.
It is great having that there. And, I'd be remiss. I moved to Katy in 91. I had 2 daughters. They went to Katy Elementary, Katy Junior High, Katy High School. They were Katy High School cheerleaders.
Tiger.
So, we're Katy Tiger football and basketball and baseball people. But Katy football, it's more than just that. It brings the whole community together. It is really Friday Night Lights, if you see it. And so having a stadium like that has been great. Now, I have to admit, the old road stadium was fun because it would really get packed in there. Here you have a little bit of room to spread out.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but I don't see it being used for like concerts or musical events or festivals. It's pretty much just for sports.
At this point in time.
That kind of surprises me because we have Smart Financial Center and Sugar Land and the Woodlands Pavilion and, of course, downtown venues. There's really no venue for something like that in Katy.
Well, one of the problems or the things that could prohibit that is alcohol is not allowed to be served.
Oh, well, there you go.
Because it's a school property.
I see.
And so,
Mayor Thiele, I do have a question. Any major commercial developments coming to your area?
Yes, there is.
Yeah.
Yes.
And how do you handle that given the amount that it is, in the incorporated area is smaller?
Right. Well, we also have out west that we can grow if we need to, and that's where one of our largest ones is coming. It's Texas Heritage Marketplace, and the first store in that it's a huge development. The first store that has announced is Target. It's going to be a super Target out there, but there'll be other big box stores that will be there, along with other commercial, retail, and restaurants. And that's one of the things Katy does not have a lot of, are restaurants, so eating places within the city. Okay, so this is going to bring more into there. Then we also have the Greens at Katy Court, which is on the north side of the freeway, and it's also a development. Just east of us are Harris County baseball fields, and there are millions of people that are at those baseball fields every year, and there's really nothing out there, for them to eat. So we're the Greens at Katy Court. That's what that will also be. It'll be a great development. It's like sort of, I won't say it's like La Centera, but the green space that we'll have there is bigger than La Centera, if y'all know.
Yeah, that's what I was going to ask you, is how do you balance with these new projects, also then keeping in mind affordable housing, green space, all that comes with developments? How are you balancing it?
Well, it has to be beneficial to everyone, to the city, to the citizens, and also as far as a tax base to the city itself. And it's just one of those things that we look at each development. We have an excellent planning department, which everything comes through there. So it's just seeing what's good for the citizens and then what's also good for the city overall.
And the infrastructure has to be a challenge.
It is. And so like the Greens at Katy Court, it's on an old road. It's called Katy Hockley Cutoff Road. Well, to do that, we're expanding the road there, but we're also adding, as I was saying, drainage in that area too, because once again, that's on the north side where the floodwater comes, so we've enlarged the drainage.
And what about the airport out there? Do you have any jurisdiction over the executive airport?
We do not.
No,
that is
so
not within the city.
And it sounds like you don't want any.
Well, there's pluses and minuses to it. So it's something that may happen in the future, but then again,
there's been rumors forever since I've been here. They're going to do a new Disney World out in Katy. It's going to be a new huge park out there. Never happens.
Correct. And see, most of that area is what's called Houston's ETJ. So we really don't have jurisdiction over that in the Houston's ETJ.
What would you say is the biggest challenge facing you during this term now?
I think completing the projects that we've already started, and that's the word, I have it on my desk, complete. We want to start completing these projects because they take a long time. That's one thing I learned when I became mayor 3 years ago, is how long it actually takes to get a road built. All the things, and some things people don't know is when you're buying the right-of-ways and things to it. Out in Katy, there are gas pipelines all underneath Katy because we have the old Exxon plant out west, and there's just pipelines and pipelines and pipelines. So whenever you go to build a road, you've got to go get the easements and then redirect the pipelines.
I had no idea.
We have a call from Victoria who has a question for Mayor Thiele.
Thiele, yeah.
Hi, Victoria. Welcome to Hello Houston.
Yeah, hi. Thanks for taking the call. I love the show, and I love the opportunity of asking this question. I'm a resident of Katy, and I was just wondering what the, I guess it goes into consideration the water supply, the urban heat island complex, whenever these, developments are being considered, because I noticed, just with all the car washes, apartment complexes, we're losing a lot of green space and everything like that.
Yeah, Mayor, do you have enough water for all of this?
Yeah, and the green space, too.
Yeah. Right now we do have enough water for it. It's something that we look at every day. Within a week or two after I became mayor, we were in a drought contingency, and that was in 2022. And so from that time forward, that's been one of the things that we've really looked at. So lowering our wells, we're on well water out in Katy. So lowering our wells, make sure our pumps are all in working order at all times, doing services, not in the summertime, but, in the off seasons to make sure we have enough water. And on the biggest portion of the year, there's plenty of water because people aren't watering their grasses. You don't have HOAs or management companies watering their landscaping. So there's plenty of water there. One of the things that we are a part of is called West Harris County Water Authority. And that is something that is in the future where we will be bringing water in from the Lake Houston area into the city of Katy. But yes, we have expanded our capacity for water in the last 3 years. Along with, people moving in, we've more than expanded for that. Doesn't mean you're never going to have a problem. A water well can go down, a pump can go down, and then you are scrambling during that time. But we do encourage people to preserve the water, to water when they have to. We've worked with the management companies and things on times when they can water and can't water. Right. So
we have to complete this interview.
Mayor Dusty Thiele of Katy, thank you so much for joining us today on Hello Houston. Coming up on Hello Houston, we'll learn how Medicaid cuts could impact hospitals right here in Houston and in Texas. Stay with us.
A healthy democracy depends on people like you having access to clear, trustworthy news. That's how you can make informed choices about your future.
Houston Public Media's reporting gives you the facts without the noise, so you can make decisions with confidence.
But we can't do that without your support. Stand up for your right to information.
Support the reporting that you count on at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
I want to make a movie about this.
The Arts Hour brings you film.
The themes in it are so far ahead of their time.
Books.
The detail is amazing.
Art.
There's all the personal stuff.
Theatre.
Lots of singing and dancing and colours.
Music.
The dance floor is made for dancing.
And everything in between.
I want it to be exciting.
That's the Arts Hour with me, Nikki Beatty.
I really identified with it.
From the BBC.
The Arts Hour. Friday nights at 9 on News 88.7.
Support comes from GiveMeTheVIN.com. Purchasing vehicles in minutes with the VIN or license plate, or by bringing the vehicle to Houston area offices. Details at GiveMeTheVIN.com.
Support comes from UT Austin's McCombs School of Business, offering the weekend MBA at Houston. Classes held in person on alternating weekends. Group chat with admissions May 23rd. Registration available at texasmba.com. Make it here.
Support comes from Chariot Energy, delivering a range of electricity options for Texas businesses, large and small, offering custom plans for large businesses and web portal access for the entrepreneurs. Details at chariotenergy.com. Support comes from Carr, Riggs & Ingram, CPAs and Advisors, a top 25 nationally ranked full-service accounting and advisory firm, offering tax, audit, accounting, consulting, and advisory services. Learn more at cricpa.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Texas hospitals are preparing for significant cuts to billions of dollars of federal Medicaid funding as part of a budget proposal introduced by the House Republicans recently. The proposed cuts could cause severe financial strain for hospitals and negatively affect the quality of care patients receive, particularly for children and individuals with disabilities. Joining us now to tell us more about the potential impact of these cuts would have on Texas hospitals is Darbin Wofford. He's Deputy Director of Health Care for the nonprofit Third Way. Darbin, welcome to the program.
Hello, thanks so much for having me.
Okay, we can talk about this theoretically or we can talk about it practically. Let's jump in it practically. What could these cuts mean for our area and for Texas hospitals?
Yeah, absolutely. So starting off nationwide, Republicans are pushing forward a plan that would slash at least $715 billion in total healthcare spending. That means massive cuts to Medicaid, which is a program that covers nearly 1 in 5 Texans, including children, seniors, and people with disabilities. And why are they doing this? They're doing it to pay for tax cuts for the wealthiest of Americans, because with tax cuts, they need to find a way to offset that money. So they're choosing to take it from people's healthcare. And to put this a little bit more in perspective, this would mean next year a $1.8 billion cut to Texas in year one. So that's nearly $20 billion over the 10-year budget window, or a 9% cut.
Let me stop right there for 1 second. And you talk about these cuts to Medicaid. And if I'm not mistaken, the president recently was heard saying, don't touch that, don't touch that. But mathematically, if I understand correctly, and we've talked with other representatives here on this show about it, you can't put the cuts you're proposing to budget lines without touching these programs. Is that accurate?
Exactly. The committee that was in charge of finding $880 billion, the biggest piece of their budget is the Medicaid space. So it would be impossible to get the numbers they're looking for without significant cuts to Medicaid. And even though the president will say, do not touch Medicaid except for waste, fraud, and abuse. Now, the key word waste there, anything Republicans do not like in Medicaid, they'll call waste. So that will fall in President Trump's definition.
Darbin, this would also include the SNAP program, wouldn't it? Also, I guess people know as food stamps in the old days. So what I think we hear about Medicaid, and we just hear it's health care for poor people, right? So what exactly are we talking about with Medicaid? Hospital care, prescriptions, doctor care, prenatal care, psychological care. What does Medicaid bring to people that are below the poverty line?
Yeah, so Texas covers, or Medicaid in general covers about 20% of all hospital care. So even if you're taking away coverage just from lower income Americans, those hospitals are still going to see that impact in those massive revenue losses. So it's going to affect people not just on Medicaid. Take nursing homes.
Mm-hmm. Well, I've always heard that even if you're on Medicare, if you're in a nursing home long enough, you're going to end up on Medicaid. I mean, that's just the way it is.
That's completely right.
Yeah.
So take me back to the earlier question. So tell me exactly how we would feel these. Give us practical examples of what would have to happen if these cuts happen the way you say.
Mm-hmm. So a 9% hospital cut is going to mean, in practical terms, that they are going to have to scale down on the services that bring in the least amount of revenue. Maternity care, for instance, is an area where hospitals don't make as much profit on delivering and caring for babies. So we're going to see those services scale down, creating deserts for maternity care. Or if a rural hospital is struggling already, they might have to close down. And I was going to note earlier, about 63% of people in nursing homes are covered by Medicaid. So if nursing homes lose a bunch of money because of these Medicaid cuts, that's going to mean cuts in staff, which is going to mean lower quality care for people, or even closures.
So, Darbin, President Trump said today, quote, "We're not doing any cutting of anything meaningful," unquote. And that is, he said that earlier today. He said the only thing we're cutting is waste, fraud, and abuse with Medicaid. Can you give us any examples of perhaps where there is some waste, where we could lean out and not have huge impacts on people within that need it most?
So there are a couple of more technical pieces of these Medicaid cuts. One area that does kind of fall in that bucket, it's hard to, pretty much all of this is putting increased paperwork burden on people. So even if program integrity means well in trying to make sure that people on Medicaid are eligible, what it does is it creates a paperwork burden for people who are eligible, so they can miss a deadline or not get an envelope in the mail regarding their eligibility paperwork.
But could you
so
tell
even
us
if the policy
a little bit about where you were about to mention some of the examples where where we could look at logistically, we could slim down a little bit of the area?
Yeah, so one specific policy that necessarily I think does fall into this bucket is called state-directed payments, where hospitals are now permitted to pay up to the commercial rate for hospital care, which is astronomically higher, over 300% of what Medicaid pays for the same services. And in recent years, there's been an increased ramp up of that hospital care. Some might say it's considered an overpayment. So that's one area where this bill does crack down on states' ability to pay hospitals significantly more than is necessarily needed.
But you're implying that the hospitals are overcharging to begin with.
Right.
It can depend. There can be wealthier hospitals that get plenty of money from primarily treating people with commercial coverage, and they're going to be fine. It's the hospitals that are treating a higher number of people who are either uninsured, on Medicare, on Medicaid, that are going to bear the brunt here. And those are your safety net hospitals or those in rural communities.
Darbin, let me ask you this then, because we all know that there needs to be cuts in budget. There needs to be reeling in of spending. And those of us that have experienced times in the hospital with loved ones or ourselves know that the costs are very high for things that out on the street would cost a lot less. Where is, or how do you find the balance in this? What is the solution to continuing to give in this country, the richest country on the planet, good health care, but keeping it within cost? Is there a way to fix this? And if so, what would be your plan?
Absolutely. I think number one, Medicaid is not the place to look if you're looking to ramp down on high healthcare costs. Medicaid is already by far one of the most efficient government healthcare programs in the country and already pays below what it might cost a hospital to provide services. One area that we should be instead looking at is the high price people pay through commercial insurance, because people with private insurance often pay 3 times the cost of what Medicare pays for the same services. And they're the ones with the high out-of-pocket costs, high premiums, high deductibles that are really struggling. In Medicaid, historically, it's not necessarily affordability that's the issue, it's access. So if you're just cutting down spending in Medicaid, that's not going to fix the problems of access that we already have in Medicaid. It's going to make it worse. So for dealing with costs, we should look for to lower costs for people with private insurance.
Darbin Wofford is the Deputy Director of Healthcare for the nonprofit Third Way. Darbin, thank you so much for joining us today on Hello Houston.
Thank you.
Coming up on Hello Houston, we discuss the Energy Star program being at risk of shutting down and what that could mean to the consumer. And we discuss a pop-up art installation coming soon to Discovery Green. Stay with us for the second hour of Hello Houston.
Stay tuned. There's more Hello Houston on the way with Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at HoustonPublicMedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from Medical Bridges. In just 2 years, they shipped over 500 tons of medical aid to underserved countries in need. Ways to support at medicalbridges.org.
We have some clouds and a very slight chance of any showers, and then later today we'll see some sunshine with a high near 96. It's 86, and this is your NPR station, KUHF Houston, News 88.7, a service of the University of Houston. It's 12 o'clock.
Just ahead on this hour of Hello Houston, we continue diving into the big stories of the day, such as the Texas House advancing Senate Bill 37 that would reduce the influence of faculties on curriculum, and Senate Bill 2972 to restrict protesting on college campuses. I'm Frank Billingsley.
And I'm Celeste Diaz-Sherman. We'll also discuss the Energy Star program, why it's at risk, and how it can affect you, the consumer.
And I'm Ernie Manous. Also, a new pop-up art installation coming soon to Discovery Green, and we want to hear from you, so give us a call at 713-440-8870.
Or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. You can also watch us on our YouTube channel. Just go to houstonpublicmedia.org and click the big orange banner.
Hello Houston is made possible in part by founding sponsors John Bradshaw and Kathy Sanders, and by gifts from listeners like you.
Live from NPR News in Washington, I'm Lakshmi Singh. President Trump is attempting to use his power of persuasion to get House Republicans to push through a bill that contains the bulk of his legislative agenda, the priorities including boosts for border security and tax cuts.
It's the biggest tax cut in American history, and if it doesn't pass, everybody's going to get a 68% tax increase.
Critics refute the 68% claim, though. Meanwhile, the GOP's been split among three main groups. Hardline fiscal hawks are demanding deficit reduction. Moderates want to protect access to Medicaid. Blue state Republicans want to raise the cap on the deduction for state and local taxes. Democrats are united against the bill. The Department of Homeland Security has conducted its first voluntary removal charter flight from Texas to Honduras and Colombia. NPR's Jimena Bustia reports these self-deportation flights are a part of the administration's push to get migrants who are in the U.S. illegally to leave.
DHS said 64 people who opted to, quote, self-deport back to their home countries were on the flight. The department called it a voluntary charter flight. They say that's different from a flight Immigration and Customs Enforcement would use for deportations. Each person also received a $1,000 stipend and, quote, preserved the possibility that they could one day return to the U.S. The administration has launched a multi-million-dollar ad campaign encouraging immigrants without legal status to leave or face arrest and detention. But immigration advocates say questions remain over how many people may trust this program, and lawyers for immigrants argue that it could discourage people who may have legitimate asylum claims from pursuing legal options to stave off deportation. Jimena Bustillo, NPR News, Washington.
The Food and Drug Administration has announced plans that could limit access to COVID-19 vaccines. NPR's Rob Stein has details.
The FDA says that it plans to impose new requirements on COVID vaccines to focus on immunizing people at highest risk for serious complications from COVID. That would include people who are age 65 and older and younger people with other health problems. For children and younger healthy adults, the FDA wants vaccine companies to conduct additional research to demonstrate the safety and effectiveness of the vaccines. The FDA says the moves are necessary to restore trust in the vaccines. Critics say the moves are unnecessary because the vaccines are very safe and effective, and they would limit the ability of younger, healthy people to get vaccinated. Rob Stein, NPR News.
U.S. stocks are trading lower this hour. The Dow Jones Industrial Average down 88 points at 42,703. The S&P's down 14 points. The Nasdaq is off 37. From Washington, this is NPR News.
Live from News 88.7 in Houston, I'm Gabrielle Dawkins. A chlorine gas leak happening at Olean Plant B at around 9 a.m. this morning. The shelter in place was lifted in the last hour for people in the cities of Clute and Lake Jackson, roughly an hour south of the Houston metro area. Joining us now is News 88.7's Tom Perumian, who spoke with a person who was sheltering nearby. Tom, what did they tell you?
Trinity Higginbotham. She was in attendance with family members at O.M. Roberts Elementary School, where a third-grade award ceremony was getting underway. She describes what happened next.
Everyone's phone started going off, and then they made the announcement that there was a shelter-in-place order. Originally, they announced that students couldn't leave, and then a few moments later, they said that the building was actually in shelter-in-place, so that parents couldn't leave either. Well, then at the school, they just let everyone know. We did get different alerts on our phone from the school district. Security at O.M. Roberts started to tape the doors, I think just out of precaution.
Now, ultimately, that shelter-in-place was lifted. News 88.7's Gabrielle Dawkins has the latest. Gabrielle?
That's Tom Perumian reporting. Again, the gas leak has been contained. No injuries reported, and there's no word yet on the cause of the leak. Be sure to stay updated on HoustonPublicMedia.org for the latest. The city of Houston is still pushing to meet its fundraising goal for an initiative to end homelessness. Mayor John Whitmire announced the program last year, which called for $70 million in funding for services and shelter, but has so far raised only $31 million. Mike Nichols directs the housing department. He says private philanthropic sources could contribute up to $20 million, but Harris County needs to first join the effort.
And it's contingent by the city and the county both working together, both committing to not only ending street homelessness, but continuing to house people in permanent housing off the streets.
Current temperatures is 86 degrees. I'm Gabrielle Dawkins, News 88.7.
Support for NPR comes from NPR stations. Other contributors include Fisher Investments. Fisher's dedicated team of specialists provide resources on investing, retirement income, estate planning, and more. Learn more at FisherInvestments.com. Investing in securities involves the risk of loss.
Live from Houston Public Media and News 88.7, it's Hello Houston, an open forum on today's biggest stories affecting Houston and beyond. Call now, 713-440-8870, or let us know your thoughts on today's topics by emailing us at talk@hellohouston.org. And now here's your host for Hello Houston, Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
Good lunch hour.
Yeah, we're after the noon hour. Boy, a lot going on this
Anybody
this
else
afternoon.
hungry?
Yeah, I've got a story about where you should go for lunch or not. We'll get to that in a little bit. Anyway, thank you for joining us on Hello
Now
Houston.
I'm interested in what we're saying.
It's
right?
a tease. It's called a tease in the business.
Yeah, it worked.
We can also tease you with this. You can watch us live on YouTube. Easy to do. Go over to YouTube, look for the Houston Public Media channel, or just type in Hello Houston in the search engine. You can pop up and watch us live. We have lots of cameras on us all the time. You know, they're watching us.
That's good.
Yeah, it's good. And you can join the chat. Remember, when you're there, hit the like, the subscribe, and you can ring that bell. We got into a story right at the top of the show, so we never got a really good look at what's happening in the weather the rest of the week. So,
you know, it's going to stay warm. It's hot and humid, and we've had maybe a quick passing shower, but I don't have any real rain in the forecast until, wait for it, Memorial Day.
Of course.
And it's only 40%, so it's not a washout. But if you have big plans for Memorial Day itself, I'd have at least a plan B that you can go to. In case.
I was going to clean out the garage, and I'll have to put that off again.
There you go.
There you go. Thank you, Frank, for helping me get out and doing my work. Coming up on the show, we're also going to be talking about the Energy Star program and why it's at risk. You know, those little stickers you see say Energy
The little
Star.
blue ones on your
I think of them as yellow.
appliances.
Are they blue? Are they yellow?
They're blue.
Oh, I guess I don't know what they look like. Anyway, let's go to the news.
They're
Celeste.
blue.
They're blue.
They're blue?
Yeah, they're blue.
What are yellow?
Maybe they're blue and yellow.
No, they're blue. The Texas House on Monday advanced Senate Bill 37 that would reduce the influence of faculties on curriculum, as well as another measure, Senate Bill 2972, to restrict protesting on college campuses. As originally written, SB 37 would prohibit professors from teaching students to adapt the idea that any race, sex, ethnicity, or social, political, or religious belief is superior to another. The bill is part of an effort by Republicans to address what they see as a liberal bias in higher education. According to the Texas Tribune, Valerie Martinez-Ebers, a political science professor at the University of North Texas, said the state's DEI ban has already led her to self-censor and driven her colleagues to teach in other states. Both measures are authored by Republican Senator Brandon Creighton of Conroe. Are you in favor of or opposed to those two bills targeting universities? Should the government regulate curriculum? Is it against free speech to outlaw protest? Give us a call, 713-440-8870.
Interesting. I read the bill, and the part
too.
that seems to be so important here is that it does not require or attempt to require a student to adopt a belief that any race, sex, or ethnicity, or social, political, or religious belief is inherently superior to any other.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that sounds to me like more of a liberal idea than a conservative idea. That none of these is better than the other. That it's more egalitarian. So I don't. Am I reading it wrong? I don't.
Interesting take.
I don't see why, if you're going to say we're all on an equal playing field, that's a bad thing. How are you reading it?
Well, Ernie?
I'm looking at it. You speak right now while I'm still processing here.
Yeah, I'm still processing too.
I hear what Frank's saying. It goes back to me again, what do the actual words in the bill say, and what is the actual push behind it? If, in fact, it is that students cannot, no teacher can push a particular agenda, which is really what I think they're trying to say here, and that all must be treated equally fair and balanced. My problem comes in that sometimes it isn't all equal, fair, and balanced. We had the president, if not the current one, the past president of NPR here at one point, and they were talking to our staff, and they said, if somebody reports that the sky is red, you don't have to put that on because anyone can go out and see that the sky is actually blue. And therefore, it's not a balanced equal. So you're reporting it's blue, someone has said it's red, you have to give them equal fair time. All things are not equal.
Well, maybe that's the problem here is the word require.
Right.
Yeah.
Do not require or attempt to require a student to adopt a belief that any race, sex, ethnicity is
right.
better
And
than
I
the
would
other.
think that comes from the idea that
Shouldn't it
there's
already
this,
be like that?
Right.
Yeah.
But there's this assumption that there is a woke positioning being pushed on students, and therefore this is saying you can't push that woke agenda. I think that's probably where they're coming from with it.
We want to hear
That's my
from you.
non-legal mind.
Give us a call, 713-440-8870.
And then there's 2972 that we're talking about, which is, I think, to just say it restricts protesting on college campuses, that's a little strong. It doesn't restrict it. It puts certain restrictions like what time of day it could happen. The people doing the protesting have to have a student ID, and they have to be students or faculty. I think the biggest thing that I read in that was that you cannot wear a face mask if you're participating in this protest. So we talked about this a while
We've
back.
talked about this. Has been one of our topics
the reason behind that is you want to be able to identify people doing the protest.
Right.
And if you don't agree with the protest, you might want to do something to those people, and that's the bottom line to that, I think.
Right.
And not a good thing.
We have a right to protest.
Yes.
We want to hear from you. 713-440-8870.
Before we go on to my next story, I have done a little research here, and it turns out that the Energy Star label is blue and white.
Yeah.
The Energy Guide label is yellow and provides detailed information about the product's energy usage. It often rides alongside the Energy Star label. So there was a yellow label out there somewhere, and it did have value. All right, before we go on to the next story, 713-440-8870. We have Celeste on the line. Did you go and make a quick phone call too?
Rosenberg. I know. I was like, are you talking to me? Celeste, are you on the line?
Yes, I'm here.
What do you have for us today?
Beautiful name, by the way.
Oh, thank you. Yes, I just wanted to comment on the conversation that you guys were having about the legislature trying to restrict, some of the freedoms on public campuses.
Mm-hmm.
So it was always my understanding. I'm undergrad and grad. I finished with both public universities, and it was my understanding that if it's a public university, then you're supposed to have certain freedoms, of speech. But then in addition to that, as far as the higher thinking, isn't that one of the reasons that we go to college? We don't just go to college or to university just to get a level thinker. And so that is typically what people refer to as a liberal thinker. But in general, it's just thinking more critically, thinking outside of the box, being unique, being, just different. It impacts your intellectual ability. It
Celeste,
makes you a more well-rounded person.
Thank you for those comments. I had a professor that used to say in college that we're not here to teach you the facts. You can look those up. We're here to teach you how to think and how to explore. And that the whole socialization that comes from higher education and the involvement with other people and other ideals, that's what I think.
A liberal arts education was often sold as, look, if you can get a college degree in liberal arts, you can learn to do anything.
Right.
With the assumption being you've learned how to learn, right? You learned how to think. You've learned how to question. You have curiosity, and you'll get the answers. That's the idea. And so far in my generation, it worked. I don't know about yours.
Celeste, thank you. We're moving on. 713-440-8870. Ashley from Acres Home is on the line. Ashley, what's on your mind?
Hi. I definitely agree with what Celeste was saying. But I think that the bill in general is actually more on the side of censorship than than freedom of expression.
Ashley, thank you for that. I'm having a little trouble hearing you. Did you get it, Celeste or Frank?
I didn't catch that.
I think she agreed with the caller before.
No, I think she was saying that she believes that this bill is more about censorship.
Yeah.
That's what the word she used.
Well, let's see what Hector has to say from Missouri City. Hector, I hope this is a clear line for us.
Let's go back to the Boston Tea Party.
Okay.
When the king was taxing Americans, but not representing them. Well, I didn't elect the king. I didn't vote for him, but he's not king. So why should he take our right to protest away, especially the students?
Taxation without representation. That absolutely started it all. You're absolutely right.
You're going to get represented, and you don't like what's going on, which is what I think we ought to do protest and it's been going on.
Yep.
But that's back to the Boston Tea Party.
Hector, thank you very much for that. 713-440-8870. Virginia is on. Boy, everyone's calling suddenly. Virginia from Oak Forest. Hello, Virginia. What's on your mind?
Hi. Yes, I was commenting about the requirement that people would have to wear masks or could not wear masks and had to either be faculty or students. I was asked to speak at an academic freedom rally on the U of H campus April 17th. I involved in a labor union leader, and not faculty, not students, but having grown up in Lubbock, Texas, where Texas Tech was kind of like the heart of our community, I just think it's wrong to say other people from the community that are not faculty or students are not allowed on a college campus, especially if it's a public campus. So I just and all the talk during COVID about, oh, you can't make.
I lost you in there, Virginia. Virginia, hold for a second. You said how you can't, Virginia. We lost you in the middle there. You said how we can't, and then you dropped out on us.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm driving. But yeah, it's just that all this talk during COVID where people were upset that they should be forced to wear a mask. Now they're trying to force people to not wear a mask.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's whatever's convenient.
Virginia, thank you for calling and sharing that with us. We're going to also grab Gabby real quick from Cyprus, 713-440-8870. Gabby, what's on your mind?
Hi. I was just agreeing with one of the hosts saying that it's not about the bill, what they're saying about, but versus how they're saying it. I disagree that there should be no hierarchy of like measuring ideology, because white supremacy is not a good ideology, and be able to say that at a college campus.
Okay, Gabby, thank you very much for that. Wait, the phones are going. I'm going to grab another one. Let's get Zach real quick from Richmond. Zach, what's on your mind?
Hey, how's it going? I'm a 6-year veteran of the Navy, and I have almost 2 STEM degrees, one from Texas A&M, and I'm working on one at University of Houston right now. And I've never heard any professor push ideology on me except for right-leaning ones where they push pseudoscience against global warming and their own ideology. So I just wanted to say that.
Thanks, Zach. Thank you for that point. Remember, we're interested in what you have to say. Everyone's invited. Give us a call, 713-440-8870. I feel a little fluffy going on to my next story,
Let's do
but
it.
I think it's a very important story for those of us who like to eat out. A Houston man is seeking up to $1 million in a lawsuit against Whataburger, claiming the fast food restaurant left onions on his burger despite his request to omit them due to a food allergy. Demery Arden Wilson sued the Texas-based chain last month in Harris County after allegedly sustained a serious personal injury for which he had to seek the care of medical professionals. According to the lawsuit, he claims that he experienced an allergic reaction on July 24th, 2024, due to onions present in his meat after requesting no onions. The lawsuit goes on and on, more paperwork about it. But does this Houston man have a case? Give us a call, 713-440-8870.
Nah, get out of here. Sorry, I'm going to say it. Way too much to speculate here. But I will say I did a little digging around. Last May, the same customer and attorney sued Sonic. And it was dismissed for the same onions. It was dismissed a month later. These are the type of people that really get under my skin because you know what? When there really is a problem, when something really bad happens, it gives lawsuits a bad name.
Well, when you're a serial suer, you lack credibility.
Serial suer.
A serial suer. That's all you do is bring lawsuits.
Yeah.
And,
and boy, what
onion
bad
allergies,
luck this guy. Twice he ordered no onions, and twice he got onions at 2 different establishments. Poor thing.
Are you joking?
Yeah,
Are you
I am
joking?
joking.
Okay.
No, I'm not.
Well, onion
I
allergies
just
are a real
never
thing.
know
But
with you.
if you have an onion allergy, you should know better than to just
Right.
order a burger anywhere.
And the people that I know that have food allergies are very clear.
Well, Kevin has one, shellfish.
And y'all are very clear on
And
it.
we've had chefs come out of the kitchen and say, tell me about your allergy.
Yeah.
You know, because I want to make sure.
I'm guessing at Whataburger, the chef doesn't come out of the kitchen to explore your allergy a little deeper. But
You never know.
But
I
if
mean,
you're allergic,
what
yeah,
a story.
That's like you have a responsibility to look at that burger and make sure there's no onions. on
Right.
it.
There's where I go. If you are eating at fast food restaurants, and nothing against I love fast food restaurants, there's not all the care in the world put into it. The number of times I've driven through a drive-thru and I get the bag of food and I look, it's not even what I've ordered. So what you've learned to do is you look to see what's in the bag. If you have an onion allergy at a restaurant that traditionally puts onions on things, you look.
Well, cooks with onions. Like we get grilled onions at Champ Burger, and that's the same grill. That's the same grill. So you could have nowhere near onions on your burger, but it might have been cooked in the same grease right next to it.
And how do we know he didn't plant the onions?
How do we know those were onions from that moment even?
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, anybody want to meet at Whataburger
if
after
he
this?
stopped
Because
and looked at that burger, then he knew there were onions on it, so he shouldn't have kept eating it. And if he didn't look and he ate them, and he had, I don't know.
sounds delicious right now.
All right, we're getting a wrap from our producer.
But one more
Jim.
call. I think we have
one more call. Riley from Sugar Land
Hi, Riley.
on
What's
the
up?
topic earlier.
Yes, yeah. I just wanted to make a comment on what Frank said about what was in. He read the text of the bill and how it said something, specific, maybe different than what other people are saying. And I just wanted to make a comment that I feel like that is so important, and not enough people do that today. Because I've found in my experience, I'll get, one perspective of the bill from the media, and then I read it, and it's actually completely different.
Right.
And I just had this exact same experience with the school vouchers thing. So I was totally against the school vouchers. I have 3 kids in public school. I was like, no, this is going to take money out of my kids' public school. That's bad. And then I was reading an article, and it said something about, it was talking about the bill, and it dropped something in there very small about $1 billion or $2 billion fund set aside for it. I was like, what is that? So I started digging into it, and then I read the bill. I was like, wait a second, this isn't taking any money out of my kids' public school funding. And that was completely different than what I've been hearing for months and months and months from the media. And so anyways, I just wish more people would do that, would really just read what's in the bill, in the actual legislation, as opposed to just getting a perspective from the media, because so many times in my experience it's very different than what you'll actually.
Riley, I am right there with you. I will often, even we often will talk about surveys or things that came out, polls that came out, and I'm always like, you've got to know who was polled, you've got to know what the actual question was, and then interpret the results. And that interpretation can also differ from place to place. It's up to you to do some of the research. So, Riley, thank you very much for saying that.
And you got to know what's really in the whole bill, because
Right.
it can sound, oh, I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it. Oh, wait, there's this little bitty line in there that I don't love, and it's kind of almost hidden. It's
Right.
like almost like pork, when they put pork in a bill, and you're like, oh.
And we were talking about responsibility as we were talking about Whataburger and how everybody even has responsibility for themselves. The same thing with media literacy, where you
Yes.
get your news and your information, look at your sources, look up, you can find every bill and who authored it, where it's from, the fine print, everything.
And most of them are short.
Yeah, most of them are
There's
short.
so many bills out there. They keep them short so people can actually read them.
Well, but then you get the federal level, and then they're ridiculously
No, I'm at the
long.
I'm at the Texas
But
level.
the interesting thing here that I don't like in Texas, that I don't fully understand still, is, okay, so there's 2 bills, one from the House, one from the Senate. They both get approved. So then they go into, after they're going to go to the governor's desk, then they get together and they put together a new bill, which is what the governor actually signs. And I'm always curious, how much does it change from the bills that we
That's
saw
a very
approved
good
beforehand
question.
before they consolidate into something? All right, we just going on and on. I want to go back about everything's moving so quick on my screen. Najim, he commented on YouTube about the burgers. He says, I think that this person deserves a year of free burgers. This is fair. Allergies are your responsibility. I'm a little confused how that switched at the end there. If it's your responsibility, then you're responsible. They don't have to give you your free burgers. But if it's Whataburger's responsibility.
Enough burger talk. I'm
I know,
starving. Coming up on Hello Houston, we will talk about the Energy Star program and why it's at risk. And we continue to take your calls on today's topics at 713-440-8870. This is Hello Houston on News 88.7.
You know how important trusted news is for your ability to make informed decisions. That's why News 88.7 is your station.
At Houston Public Media, we give you the facts clearly and honestly so you can make decisions about your life.
Don't let anything stand in the way of your right to stay informed. Donate today to ensure that trusted news remains free and available for everyone in our community.
Give right now at houstonpublicmedia.org/donate or call 888-909-0887.
I'm Jeremy Hobson. Next time on The Middle, President Trump is laser focused on eliminating DEI.
I ended all of the lawless so-called diversity, equity, and inclusion.
So if not DEI, then how does America ensure equal opportunity for all and reckon with the past? That's our question, and we'll be joined by ACLU President Deborah Archer and political commentator Camille Foster. Plus, your calls next time on The Middle.
You can hear it Thursday night. It's on at 8 p.m.
Support comes from Artec House, Houston's home for digital art and immersive experiences, located in the Heights. A journey across time and space in 26,000 square feet of interactive installations. Tickets at artechhouse.com.
Houston Public Media brings to you PBS World. Experience the personal connection behind the headlines with programming devoted to telling stories that humanize complex issues. PBS World on TV 8.6 and online at houstonpublicmedia.org.
Support comes from electricityplans.com, helping Houstonians find electricity plans based on home energy usage with tools to compare rates. Enrollment details and more at electricityplans.com. Support for Houston Public Media comes from Chariot Energy, focused on delivering tailored electricity plans by time of day usage, offering residential electricity plans through its online portal. Details at chariotenergy.com.
And now back to Hello Houston. To comment on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now back to Ernie Manous, Celeste Diaz-Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
We often mention how you can follow along with the show and watch us live on YouTube. Next to that screen, you can see the live comments going on. You can join those conversations. Some folks have reaction to our Sonic story, our Whataburger, actually, I should say, story about the onions on the burger and the man suing for $1 million. Dark One writes, I read the same thing about his Sonic suit. It seems he also sued Sonic a year ago for something very similar, but never read whether he won or not. Is he making a living out of this? We believe that the Sonic suit was dismissed within a year, but we also have a source that says it's still pending. Over DC said, no, he doesn't deserve a year of free burgers, responding to Najim's comment, unless the hospitalization exceeded tens of thousands of dollars or he was in a coma for several months.
And then all you get are burgers?
Right. And that not just a coma for a month. It has to be several months, according to DC. Thank you. Continue to give us those comments. We'll continue to follow them. We had a text that said, I'll take a double onion and save somebody. That's what Richard says. So Richard wants double onions on his Whataburger, and he'll save a life. Okay, back into the show. Celeste, keep us going.
Yes, thanks, Ernie. Earlier this month, the director of the Office of Atmospheric Protection at the EPA told employees that the Energy Star program and all the other climate work outside of what's required by statute is being deprioritized and eliminated. The Energy Star program, which helps consumers identify energy-efficient products and appliances, helps reduce energy waste and pollution, and has helped consumers save more than $500 billion in energy costs since 1992. So why is the Trump administration going after a program that saves people money while reducing pollution and energy consumption? To tell us more about the Energy Star program and why it's at risk, we welcome Johanna Neumann. She is the Senior Director for Campaign for 100% Renewable Energy at Environment America Research and Policy Center. Johanna, welcome to Hello Houston, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
So can you tell us a little bit about where we are at and what we know about the current status of Energy Star?
Sure. So I think before I get into what's happening now, it's helpful to have a little bit of history about the Energy Star program. So back in 1992, under the leadership of Texas's own George Herbert Walker Bush, EPA created the Energy Star program. And the idea behind it is pretty simple. If you create labeling to make it easy for consumers in the marketplace to identify which products are energy efficient, it sends a signal to the marketplace that there's a market here. And so recognizing the power of voluntary labeling, EPA created the Energy Star program. And so there are kind of three key steps to making the program work. First, staff at EPA look at a suite of appliances and they set energy efficiency specifications for those appliances based on their assessment. Then manufacturers that meet those specifications have the option of displaying the blue Energy Star logo on those products. And then consumers and businesses who are in the market for an energy efficient piece of equipment can look for that Energy Star label when they're making buying decisions. So since 1992, it's really become one of the most widely recognized symbols in America. Some say Energy Star is as widely recognized as Santa Claus. And there was a survey done in 2022 that showed that fully 90% of American households recognize this label. And they really trust it to provide simple, credible, and unbiased information so that they can make informed decisions when they're purchasing equipment that uses energy.
Before you go on to answer the other question Celeste had asked about where we are now with it, I'm just curious, how much a year in the budget does it cost for the Energy Star program?
Not very much. So Energy Star, bang for the buck, is an incredibly efficient government program. And I was just pulling up the numbers on this. Give me just 1 second. Maybe we can circle back to it at the end of the show.
Okay.
And I can pull those, like, for every dollar invested, how much American taxpayers save.
And I'm also curious the difference between the blue label and then the Energy Guide label, the yellow one. Do they work in concert together? Are they different programs?
They work in concert. So the Energy Guide label shows you relative to other appliances how much that one uses. Energy Star is like the sign that you are on the upper end of the efficient products.
So the good housekeeping seal of approval, kind of.
Yeah, basically. So, if you, in order, for example, for a home to get the Energy Star label, it has to be more efficient than 75% of the homes on the market.
Oh,
well, I was going to ask,
it's an indicator that you're on the leading edge of energy.
And is that true for like a refrigerator? For a refrigerator, we all have a refrigerator. To get that and an Energy Star, what percentage does it have to be better than?
The exact specifications for products vary product to product, so it's not as easy to just say, oh, it's more efficient than 75%. But that's a decent rule of thumb.
Okay.
The way to think about it is that Energy Star is this voluntary labeling program so that people who want efficient equipment can quickly recognize it in the marketplace. And then on the other end of the spectrum, the Department of Energy manages an energy efficiency standards program, and it ensures that every appliance that's in the marketplace meets a very minimum standard of energy efficiency. So you could argue Energy Star pushes the envelope and the standards bring up the floor.
So I guess I'm assuming that the belief is the Energy Star label moves consumers toward those products, and that's why manufacturers want to make sure that they can get that because more people would buy their product. If that assumption is correct, if the Energy Star labeling program went away, is the fear that manufacturers would no longer see that as a desirable piece of the marketplace to create for, and so they would slide back on their standards? But aren't we saying that there's an audience out there that still wants the efficiency? So couldn't it just shift over to the manufacturers to advertise, we have a product that's this much better than everyone else? Couldn't it still exist outside of a government program?
Uh-oh, I think I have lost my Zoom connection.
Oh, no, because that was a brilliant question I asked.
Can you all hear me?
We can hear you, but you have frozen on our screen. We'll try and reconnect back with you in a minute. I don't know if she can hear me still. So we'll let our technology take it. Guys, thoughts on the... Oh, there was my very Northeastern approach, guys. Folks.
Well, it's interesting, right? Because it's bringing in a question that I think a lot of people are looking at how our government spends money. And when you're looking at the bottom line, yes, perhaps this is shifting away from, I see it, you're looking at it more, can the manufacturer pick up this?
Yeah, if we're establishing there's an audience out there that wants these energy efficient products, wouldn't then it still be beneficial to a producer to continue, or a manufacturer to still produce them?
And I would imagine it's going to fall more on the consumer.
Johanna's back.
Johanna's back.
I'm back.
And if you have a question for Johanna.
Sorry about the technical glitch.
No problem.
Yes.
If anyone has a question for you, they can call us at 713-440-8870.
Let me go back to the question I was asking you before we got the freeze up there, and that wouldn't manufacturers pick up the slack here because they still want to present a product in the marketplace that says, look how much better we are than the competition, you should be buying us. What would happen if Energy Star went away, do you fear?
So Energy Star is broadly supported by consumers, by retailers, and by manufacturers. In fact, more than 1,000 retailers and manufacturers have written to the EPA urging them not to scrap the Energy Star program. I suppose I have heard an argument made that maybe government doesn't need to have a role here. Why can't this be either taken up by the private sector on its own? And essentially having EPA's stamp of approval on the certification process and having someone there, periodically do compliance checks helps preserve the integrity of the brand. And without kind of the full force of the government behind it, it's a lot harder to keep bad actors from slapping the label on their products and getting away with it. And then that has the effect of eroding the public confidence in the Energy Star brand, which, that's the whole premise of the program.
Well, it's been around forever since, as you said, 1992. So what's going on? Why does the current administration want to get rid of it?
Well, my fear is that what's happening is that they're throwing out the baby with the bathwater, and that as they're working to eliminate government waste, really effective and efficient programs like Energy Star could end up in the crosshairs. So I think now is an important time for retailers and for manufacturers and for American consumers to make their voice heard with the administration and with their members of Congress to say, Energy Star is great. We don't want to get rid of it. Please don't gut this program.
Well, is it in the crosshairs?
Energy Star is definitely in the crosshairs. So I guess it's still May. Time is moving very fast in the energy space right now. But essentially the director of EPA's Office of Atmospheric Protection in a meeting told staff that the Energy Star program and all other climate work outside of what's required by statute is being deprioritized and eliminated. Now, you could see Energy Star as a climate program because it does dramatically reduce energy waste in America, but it's not just a climate program. It's also really reducing the pollution that affects public health, and it reduces costs for consumers.
Yeah, I think that's a big point.
Yeah.
I want the refrigerator that's cheapest to run.
Right. And it's also worth noting the program has been wildly successful. So to give you a sense of the scope of the benefits, since 1992, the Energy Star program has reduced energy waste by 5 trillion kilowatt hours. That is enough electricity to power all the homes in America for 3 years.
Wow.
So the impact, we're talking, if we get rid of this program and we start replacing efficient Energy Star appliances with less efficient options, we're going to have to build a lot more generating potential to power our grid, and it's going to put more strain on the grid. Right. So, at this moment where our grid is already facing reliability challenges, far and away the fastest and cheapest way that we can meet our energy needs is to use energy more wisely, and Energy Star is a proven winner in that regard.
Right, but Johanna, if the program ends, would energy efficient products still remain on the market?
There's no reason why manufacturers wouldn't continue to make energy efficient appliances, but what you lose is that clarity of the market signal that energy provides.
Well, and they could lie, right?
And they could lie, and there could be no consequences because there's not a cop on the beach.
We have the best one here. We have the most efficient one here, and you get it home and you find out that that's not true, or it's been skewed in some way.
I had asked you earlier at the beginning of the interview also, and you were going to try and find me some numbers on this. And I know we got a little derailed when we lost your connection there. I'm just curious, and the reason I keep going back to it is the fact I want the audience to understand what we're actually talking about dollars and cents wise, because it's such a tiny sliver of the budget that you eliminate it. It's not going to eliminate waste in our government.
Yep. So I found those numbers.
Okay.
And currently, the annual budget of the Energy Star program is approximately $32 million.
No.
That's
You're kidding.
$32
million.
It's less than 1% of EPA's total spending.
Wow.
But it saves American households more than $40 billion on energy bills. In other words, for every taxpayer dollar we spend on the Energy Star program, consumers are saving $350. It's a terrific return on investment.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for getting those numbers. That was a point I wanted to bring home. So when we look at all of these budgets, even when you say things in the millions of dollars, when you're looking at billions and billions of dollars in spending, it's a hair. It's so minimal, and yet it has such a major impact.
I think you're right. The baby with the bathwater.
Yeah.
It's baby with the bathwater, and then it's also worth saying, $32 million that's like, it's keeping the program running and it's still effective. But imagine if we invested $64 million, potentially we would see twice as many savings, right?
Yeah.
When it comes to using energy wisely in America, there is so much opportunity, and this is one of the best programs we have.
Yeah. So what can our listeners and consumers do right now?
It would be great for everyone to contact their member of Congress and let them know that they value the Energy Star program and they don't want to see it cut. Mm-hmm. Ultimately, EPA administers this program because Congress directed them to. And so Congress has a role to play in making sure EPA keeps the Energy Star program intact.
Does Energy Star have its own website?
Sure does.
Well, have you put on your website a way for people to easily contact their congresspeople?
We have, and I can, if folks go to environmentamerica.org, the lead article on our homepage right now is, what is Energy Star and does it matter?
Okay.
And there's an action on that website.
Perfect.
Johanna Neumann is the Senior Director for Campaign for 100% Renewable Energy at Environment America Research and Policy Center. Johanna, thank you so much for joining us on Hello Houston.
Thanks for having me. It was a pleasure.
Coming up on Hello Houston, we'll talk about the Art Lab at Discovery Green, giving local artists a new platform to showcase their work. Stay with us.
Tariff price increases are coming, so what are you buying?
I have a 1-year-old who goes through a lot of diapers, so personally I've stocked up on diapers.
I'm Kai Rizdal. How to budget for tariff uncertainty next time on Marketplace.
You can listen to Marketplace. That's coming up tonight, 6:30 on News 88.7.
Houston Public Media, in partnership with Texas Southern University, brings to you The Vibe. R&B, hip-hop, and neo-soul. Music that resonates with all ages. The Vibe on 88.7 HD3 and on the Houston Public Media app.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from Holocaust Museum Houston, featuring Ilan Ramon, A Life and Legacy, the story of the first Israeli astronaut. Exhibit opening and reception on May 29th. Details at hmh.org. Support for Houston Public Media comes from Specs, celebrating and focusing on tequila for sipping, margaritas, and more throughout the month of May. Recipes and more at specsonline.com. The
Support
fun
comes
starts
from
here.
GenPro, a Houston-based home generator service providing power to homes during unexpected outages, helping with connectivity and productivity. More information is available at genpro.com.
Support comes from UT Austin's McCombs School of Business, offering the Weekend MBA at Houston. Classes held in person on alternating weekends. Group chat with admissions May 23rd. Registration available at texasmba.com. Make it here. Support for Houston Public Media comes from UpReach Learning, offering summer academic boot camps designed to improve students' learning skills over the summer. Programs available for K through 12th grade. Registration info at upreachlearning.org.
And now back to Hello Houston. To share your thoughts on any of today's topics, call 713-440-8870 or email us at talk@hellohouston.org. Now here's Ernie Manous, Celestia Sherman, and Frank Billingsley.
We're back. Yes, we are. And this fall, a new pop-up art installation will be coming to Houston's Discovery Green. The installation, created by Houston-based artist Karen Navarro, will debut as a large-scale interactive sculpture on the park's Seraphim picnic lawn. Joining us now to tell us more is that artist herself, Karen Navarro, and a former Discovery Green Art Lab Fellow. Congratulations on that.
Thank you.
And Discovery Green Artistic Director, Susan Theis. Karen, Susan, thank you both for joining us.
Thank you. We are very happy to be here.
I'm going to ask you to pull your mic a little closer to yourself because we want to hear everything
There
you
we
have
go.
to say about it. So, first of all, I'm going to start with the Discovery Green Art Lab. Tell me a little bit about that and how that puts you on the path.
So it was a program for people in Houston who didn't have like experience with the public art, and so I was very interested in just taking my practice to the public art and find materials that could make my work durable in the outside, and also integrate the interactive part of the work, because my work is made out of small pieces that are movable, but they are only movable by myself. So I thought that could translate very well into the public realm, but I didn't know how to. And so this program had that focus, and it was perfect for me.
Yeah. So the piece that you're doing, are you doing one piece of sculpture or are there many?
I am doing just one piece, but it's a large piece.
Yeah, tell me about it.
It's a big one.
Tell me about it. Is it just free form, or does it go after a certain style or a certain genre?
It has a serpentine shape, and so it's tall of about 7 feet and long 21 feet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and so the idea is that for people to be part of the work by modifying the work, it's gonna be it's gonna have segments of images, like prisms that have images in each side, and people are invited to move those images, to rotate and create a new image, because that's my work all about identity. And in this work, we're focusing on diversity, and so we're trying to portray the diversity of the Discovery Green community and the Houston, because Houston is one of the most diverse cities in the U.S. So the idea is that people will be part of the work, will be able to modify and contribute to the work, and so they also are going to see themselves reflected in the work. So, yeah.
Well, Karen, I was also reading a little bit about this, and it said here that you're drawing from your migrant experience and the indigenous heritage. Talk to us about that, because I'm often so interested in hearing where an artist draws from their experience. And as a storyteller myself, I feel like sometimes our own story comes out in our art. Talk to us about that.
Yes. So I'm going to start with something that has nothing to do, but has a lot to do with my practice, which I recently became a mother. And that's the reason why my hat. And I've been doing, over these past years, I've been doing a lot of introspective work about my own identity. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted in this work to integrate myself in the portraits. And so the idea is that I am going to be in this portrait. So the portraits are going to be portraits of myself and people from Houston, that they are meant to be anonymous, because they are going to be taken from the back, but they are meant to be representative. But the idea is that everyone can feel and see themselves reflective in the work without having a specific face. And so, and coming back to your question, so I migrated here 10 years ago. Crazy, just was talking to someone. 10 years, it's 10 years. And when I migrated here, I didn't speak the language. I come from Argentina. I was born in Buenos Aires. And it took, for me, an adjustment. And I've always been very interested in identity, but more in a philosophical way. But when I came to the U.S., the cultural shock, not speaking the language, all of that made me think about my identity, my experience as an immigrant who doesn't speak the language and who has to adapt. And also at the same time, my own indigenous identity, which I didn't find out until I was older. And so it took me a couple of years just to find my voice and be able to feel the right that I could reclaim that part of my identity, because it's something that I haven't grew up with, and it's something that it has been negated, and it's something that my mind has been colonized in a way, right? And I was acting in a way, so I had to decolonize my mind to really understand what my position is and how can I claim my identity back.
Yeah, that is so interesting. By the way, congrats on becoming a mom. It's the best job I've ever had.
Karen, will come back to your art in a minute. Suzanne, I want to talk to you a little bit about the significance and importance of public art and why Discovery Green is committed to this kind of a program.
Well, Discovery Green has some really important works of art that are permanently installed in the park, and so we know how much people engage with those works. We started, really soon after we opened, bringing in temporary art installations from around the world. Great sculptural installation from Jorge Marin of Mexico City, and we watched as thousands and thousands of people made a trip to Discovery Green to see these. So we knew that this resonated with the public. We started a public art program in 2014 that was really popular. Just millions of people over the year have made the trek to Discovery Green to see works from artists from all over. And we started asking ourselves, why can't we show the work of Houstonians? And we looked around and found that there aren't many opportunities for Houston artists. There's not a sculpture, there's not an outdoor art festival in the way that there is in many other cities that give people the chance to learn from each other, work in each other's studios, work on projects together. We found that many of our artists that we were bringing come from places that do have these kinds of festivals. So we thought, what if we could do an intervention and put together a program that would allow a Houston artist to engage with some of these people. And so that's what we did. We put together a art lab, working with Weingarten Art Group, our arts consultant. We were able to go out and find 2 fellows. Many people applied to be one of the fellows, and we selected these 2. We wanted to especially also reach out to underrepresented artists. And so both Karen and Gerardo, who was our other fellow, had the chance to work with Jen Lewin, a brilliant artist based in New York who did our last art installation.
You mentioned the word engage, and I think when it comes to public art, I think for you the most successful pieces you've had are the ones that people can actually physically engage with. I know the big wings, you get your picture taken there, the whispers. There's so many cool aspects of that. What do you think resonates best with our audience, and what is it you look for in this art beyond just the art of it, but the interactivity of it?
The interactivity is, I think, the discovery, and that's really goes back to our mission. People love discovering. They love learning and experiencing, and they love sharing that with their families. I can remember we barely drove the last nail in something, and people would come walking in with their children and plop them up on it. People love to experience and discover. So that's what we tried to achieve. That's what we hope Karen is able to do, to take her practice into the 3D realm.
So the hot topic now is immersion, and art like this is very popular. So you said 7-foot wall. So are you going to have some kind of boxes that little kids can step on, or they're just going to pick them up and let them participate, or they're going to have to stay to the first 3 feet?
The sculpture was actually thought out so everyone can participate. A kid, an old person, a disabled person. So they are long. They are 7 feet long, and everyone can push them and turn them around.
Oh, nice.
Because you'll very quickly learn as a mom, your kids will touch everything and mostly break it at some point.
I know time is short, but I'm curious, when you go between doing something that's a public art piece that's going to be interactive, or one that mounts on a wall that people simply view? And I know a lot of your work is portraiture and stuff like that. I'm curious, as an artist, do you think about it differently? Is there a different message you can deliver in a public art piece than you can in something that's more mounted?
I think the message is the same. It's just who you can reach is the difference. And I think I like that because my message sometimes only gets to the people who goes to the museum, who goes to the gallery, and not everyone. And I think art should be for everyone.
Yeah.
Karen Navarro is a Houston-based artist. Susanne Theis is an artistic director of Discovery Green. Thank you both for being with us today on Hello Houston.
Yeah, good luck.
And when is the piece?
When is the
up?
piece? Yes.
October 2nd.
October 2nd. Come back and tell us about it when we get closer.
Yes, and you can probably head to Discovery Green and watch Karen work on the piece as well. So, and thank you for joining us today. That's the end of our show. We want to thank you for listening, commenting, engaging with us today on Hello Houston. We'll be back tomorrow with more conversations. This is News 88.7.
Thanks for listening to Hello Houston. Join us every Monday through Friday from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. to talk all things Houston. The Hello Houston production team includes Garrett Bowman, William Menjivar, Jen Altai, Todd Holslander, and Jim Kovacic. For the latest in local news, subscribe to the Hello Houston daily newsletter at houstonpublicmedia.org. Hello Houston is a production of Houston Public Media. The opinions expressed by the guests of this program are solely their own and do not represent the views of management, staff, or underwriters of Houston Public Media. This is News 88.7.
Support for Houston Public Media comes from listeners like you and from St. Luke's Health and the St. Luke's Foundation.